Have you ever had a message on your cell phone or on your laptops that asks you to upgrade your software? When you buy a new device or a new laptop, do you update your operating system and choose to get something that works faster, maybe change your virus protection? When we go through life, with our devices anyway, we're continually operating and updating our operating systems so that our devices work more effectively. Today I want to spend some time chatting about whether you're updating your own operating system. My name is Claire Holden. I'm a coach, facilitator and consultant, and I'm passionate about working with individuals and teams to help them figure out how to upgrade their operating systems. We all need to be thinking about how we think so that we can operate more effectively in the world. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. We have 11 million pieces of information coming to us at any given moment, and we can only consciously process about 40. That means that so much of our thinking is happening on a subconscious level, the level where our operating system works. And if we're not thinking about where our biases, our beliefs, our stereotypes are, we're not conscious of what we're thinking and how we're showing up in the world. And so during our time today, I want to talk about where your operating system comes from, how did it start, how do you update it, what are you going to do with it, and how you can really find ways to show up better and more meaningfully in the world. Thank you. So, I was born in 1974, so that means I'm not yet 50 years old. And in the time that I've been alive, television has come to South Africa, the internet and email has come to be. Apartheid has ended. We've changed the way we do things. Cell phones have been invented in my lifetime. That means that in less than 50 years, the world that I was born into is fundamentally different. And it's the same for a lot of us. The way we do things, the way we operate is so different from the world that our parents were in. And I think what's so important to me when I think about this is the fact that our parents raised us with beliefs and ideas and concepts that aren't in any way reflective of what the world is like now. When I think about my life, I was brought up by two white South African cisgender heterosexual parents. They're Christian. 3 of my 4 grandparents are immigrants. All of these aspects of my life have formed who I am and how my parents have brought me up. Who brought you up? What were your parents like? What were the lessons that they gave you? If you come from a religious home, you were brought up with beliefs around sexuality, promiscuity, marriage. Perhaps you were even brought up with ideas of gender roles, where the women are supposed to stay home and raise children, or men are supposed to go out and be the breadwinners. These are the issues that we need to think about because they impact what we expect from others and how we show up in the workplace. Are you treating the women in your workplace as equals, as people who have a right to be there? When you meet people, do you make eye contact? Is that seen as engaging and connection in your culture? Perhaps in some cultures where we don't make eye contact, that focused eye contact can be really intimidating. What about body contact? Are you somebody who likes hugs and physical affection? Or are you one of those people who's been brought up to keep your distance, to respect personal space? Sometimes our experiences in life are what changes us. People have had experiences that make them much more cautious, experiences of disrespect or trauma that impact how they show up in the world. In all these cases, these experiences, these beliefs, our education, the people we're with, the news we read, impact who we are and what we do. And it's not always in ways that are helpful. So how do we change it? What can we do to make sure that we are being effective? I think if I look around the globe at the moment, everywhere, we're seeing increasing polarization. We're seeing Brexit in the UK. In the US, we're seeing this difference in ideology that's causing conflict everywhere. It's not particular to any country, but it is widespread. And so I would say if you're a human being in the world today, this is work you need to do. As I look at it, I think the ways that we do it are, there are so many ways, but we have to be intentional. I guess that's the starting point. The first way is self-reflection. Are you getting the results you want in life? Are people responding to you in the way that you anticipate? Have you heard yourself saying, oh, that's too woke for me? Or maybe you talk about snowflakes. Or maybe you laugh at jokes that are a little bit off color and you're not really sure whether they're supposed to be funny or not. All of these are indicators that you need to upgrade your operating system. I use journaling. I think it's a really useful tool because it allows me to stop and assess what are the patterns that I'm noticing. Am I getting the results that I want? Coaching is another great way to upgrade your operating system because it gives you an independent thinking partner who can notice the patterns with you and help kind of inspire you or challenge you to go for that upgrade. Another really easy way to upgrade your operating system, particularly in an online world, is to connect with different people. We can look at LinkedIn. I follow so many different people in LinkedIn, people from different religions, cultures, countries, people who have different jobs, people with different abilities, different sexual orientations, and different expressions. It's a wonderful way to actually start understanding what people are experiencing and what they're thinking. For me, the big thing here is to be curious. When we're curious about what people are experiencing, what people are doing, how they're living their lives, we open our perspective, and that's where the magic of upgrades happen. Another really important part of upgrading your operating system is research. Google is your friend here. So often we say that we don't know things. We don't know somebody should have been offended. We don't understand what Black Lives Matter movement is about. We automatically get defensive and think that it's not relevant to us. Often, particularly if we're somebody who ticks a lot of the privilege boxes, we feel like we're under attack when we start talking about upgrading operating systems and changing the way that we show up in the world. The big thing here is that it impacts all of us. All of us interact with other human beings. And so each of us really does need to take the time to do the work to find out, what do I need to know? What makes me a more effective human being? What are the things that I'm seeing on the news that I don't understand or I'm not familiar with? These are the issues that we can Google. My final and I guess my biggest go-to operating system upgrade strategy is people. I do facilitated conversations in businesses. I do coaching with individuals. And in all of those interactions, I'm learning and getting to know human beings who have different life experiences to me. I choose to surround myself with people who inspire me, people who think differently to me, people who have the courage to challenge me. After the break, I'm going to introduce you to two of my, what I call diversity buddies. Sally looks more like me, Nolo looks different to me, but the way that we think, the way that we show up in the world, our experiences, our education, our passions, although in some ways aligned, are very different. It inspires me to be able to sit with somebody and say, how did you experience that? What did you think about that? To have people ask me the uncomfortable questions. We like saying something like, especially when you're triggered, that's interesting, can you tell me more? And I think it's about being able to challenge each other, challenge ourselves to be uncomfortable, but to understand how we're landing on people and how other people experience us. As I said earlier, if we're not getting the results that we want in the world, it's because we're doing something wrong. And that's when we need to upgrade our operating system. Thank you.
What next? The story you need to work on to grow from here. Now you've started your business, you've got a product out there, you've got a service going, you have some feedback, you've got an idea of who your customers are, you've got some engagement going on social media, and that's great. I hope that all this content has helped you figure out how you can get going in your business without the big funny stuff, but just small, simple steps that can gradually help you get out there. So think about, can you get a mentor? Should you diversify your customers? Should you get new people to be customers? Should you get old people to buy new products? What are some different things you can work with that you can tweak to get you more sales and more traction in your business? Think about how you can continue to share on social media so people know about your story. Think about where you failed and what you need to improve. Think about what's working well and what isn't, and how you change those. It's okay if your business isn't working out how you thought. Take the feedback, adjust your product and service, change your market. It's okay to be agile, and that agility will help you stay in business. If you've enjoyed these 10 quick snippets on getting out there and starting your business, head over to our website or use this link and forward it to a friend. It's great to have more people be in business together so that we can continue to grow our community of entrepreneurs. And it's better to fail together, I promise you that, but also learning together as we grow our businesses. We hope that this has been valuable to you, and we wish you the best as you grow your business.
So I finally get to introduce you to Sally. Sally is CEO of Talk Solutions and an incredible thinker. Sally's partnered with me in producing, she's the brains behind the tech and the concepts, producing a diversity, equity and inclusion toolkit that really is designed to help people upgrade their operating systems. So Sally, I would love you to just tell us a little bit about the toolkit, like what are the components of it. And what I love about what you do is you're passionate about, I think, helping people upgrade their operating systems, but you're using tech and your expertise in the employee engagement space to really bring together ways of helping people navigate the world more effectively.
Well, thanks, Claire, and I do like being called the brains. I'm not going to lie, that sits really well with me. So I think that the big thing about the toolkits and about what we're trying to do is we're trying to take DEI and we're trying to make it available to everyone at scale. And I think that's always been the challenge, is how do you do diversity work? How do you have conversations? How do you engage with people? How do you set a common language and a common understanding of what diversity means? How do you explain concepts like intersectionality, privilege, bias? How do you do that at scale? Because I think the big thing right now is that organizations specifically are looking to say, we need to do this work. We all need to upgrade our operating systems, but we have thousands and thousands of people in our organization. How do we do that? And, I think when we looked at the toolkit, we said, okay, how can we do this at scale? We need to look at three major components, and that is an online digital component, that we can make sure that this type of information is democratized and made available to everyone in an organization.
Love that.
Well, yeah, you would. And then looking obviously at the journaling and the reflection part of that. And, that also speaks to the cognitive way that people learn by writing things out and really spending that time. Diversity work is uncomfortable at times and needs a lot of privacy, I think, so people can spend that time really examining and thinking about how they feel and the steps that they want to take and reflecting on things. The idea is also that people can come back to topics that trigger them or that they're unable to engage with. For some people, the idea that there's a gender spectrum is far too triggering to even have a look at the first time round, but in a couple of months, they're hopefully able to go back and engage with the content. And then the last is really around the conversational element, and that is chatting in a facilitated environment, with expert facilitators like yourself and Nola and the rest of the team, who are able to take people through that, really examine where they are. And I think the big thing around that is the storytelling, right?
Yeah, I think that makes a huge difference. I love those three components of the toolkit. I think for me, that starting point is everybody has different experiences, so
Yeah.
we're not starting from the same position. And how do we give everybody through that, the tech, I guess the online course, the shared vocabulary and a starting point, so that everybody, whether you're the CEO or the person who makes coffee in an organization, you all have a shared vocabulary and a common starting point to engage in the process.
And I think it's also around again the intentionality. I think it's about setting that common language, setting that common intention. And I think it's so important when we look at organizations that want to create belonging. I think it's super important that, you know, that leadership is visible in this process.
Yes.
So, you know, being in the conversation, going through the learning, seeing your leader sitting next to you, going through, having the same conversation, working through the same journal, you know, familiarizing themselves with the same language set, it makes you feel like you belong and that you're actually learning together rather than being taught. And I think that that's the big thing that always comes across for me with the DI toolkit, is it's around let's examine, and the whole conversations are around let's explore these concepts together, because how they land with me and my lived experience and my, you know, where I sit is going to be so different to where you sit. So how are we able to share that experience together?
And I love how the journal works for that, because I think that it's scary to sit in a room, no matter where you sit in an organization. And even if you're somebody doing this by yourself, because I know that the courses are also on Be a Better Human, so individuals can do them themselves. It doesn't have to be an organizational intervention. But it's scary to do the work. It's uncomfortable to do the work. It's super scary to do the work when you feel like other people are looking. And I guess the journal then becomes this private place, this offline place where our personalities are not curated, where we just can be, and where we can work through some of that content and be challenged, but safely. You know, where we can kind of close it a bit, or where people aren't watching us. And maybe that gives us the ability to feel more prepared when we go into a conversation, because we know we've done some of the thinking work, some of the systems upgrade that kind of almost hopefully prevents us from ending up in a situation where we get triggered when we get into the conversation.
And the prep work for that. You know, when we look at a system upgrade, Apple always tells me, do you want to run the upgrade now? Do you want to run it tonight? You know, you know, or immediately, we're upgrading now. You know, and I think the journal and going through the process also allows you to plan when you want that to happen. So you can go through and say like, all right, this month I'm just going to focus on my bias, or I'm just going to focus on how I say certain things, and I'm going to focus on calling in or calling out, or whatever I'm planning on working on that month, because it's a lot to sort of, you know, do all at once. So to chunk it down and to work out a bit of a plan of action for me is super helpful. And I can then go in and say, okay, I'm going to work on this one thing and I'm going to be intentional about that aspect. And I can plan out how that's going to work for me, because we all, again, approach things differently.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we're running short on time, but one of the things I think is super exciting is that with the tech that you have at Talk, and the designers that you have, you know, the content creators, you're doing this in other spaces as well. So when I think about the pandemic and how we're looking at employee value proposition and how we interact with our workforces, you guys are doing amazing stuff there.
Thank you. And I think it all ties back together, because I mean, if we look at Maslow's pyramid and we look at employee experience and all of those things, the base level is around safety and belonging. If you are not meeting the needs of your people from a safety and a belonging perspective, all of the aspirational parts of your employee experience simply don't land, because people are not feeling safe and they don't feel like they belong. So, you know, I think to get those aspects right is really key right now.
Yeah, I think that makes a huge difference. But I love the way that there's these easy, for the end user, maybe not for the people who are developing in the background, but easy ways that organizations can find to engage employees and to help them upgrade their operating systems without it feeling like hard work. Yes, we might be uncomfortable, but I mean, we know we didn't learn a new concept in maths without kind of having that initial, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to do this feeling? And so I think what's awesome is that you're finding ways to navigate, and I know it's kind of your pet peeve, but navigate a new world of work by giving employees the tools to be able to really brought into the conversation and become part of the experience in their workplace.
Well, we're certainly trying.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
with me. I'm so pleased that you're here.
Oh, you're welcome.
So if you're perhaps waking up feeling a little tired, a little gritty, a little kind of moody, maybe you're not sleeping well. Sleep is your superpower. Eat, drink, movement, and other lifestyle habits. We talk about quantity of sleep, and yeah, we should be getting a certain number of hours, but really that's only half the story. We want that deep, slow wave sleep that makes you feel fantastic the next day. It's all about energy, va vum. How do you work? How do you self-lead? How do you live your life vastly differently if you make sleep your superpower? On this course, you're going to learn about food. What should we eat? What is really going to enhance your sleep or detract from a good night's sleep? You're going to learn about alcohol. How does that affect your sleep? And then movement. How much movement during the day? What does that do for you? And how does it really enhance deep quality restorative sleep? So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to press on the button below, have some fun, and see what tiny little things you can integrate into your life. They're quick, they're easy, they're seamless, they take no time at all. But if you start to think about what you're doing and how you're doing it vastly differently, you too will have more energy on a daily basis. Sleep is your superpower. Eat, drink, movement, and other lifestyle habits. Your habits today inform your biology tomorrow.
I'm joined now with Nolo Tlali. Nolo is a labour lawyer and a DEI facilitator. I have the pleasure of working with Nolo in conducting facilitated conversations in businesses and organizations, and I mean, I think we generally do it with anybody we meet who
Yes.
listen to us and be involved in conversation. Thank you for being with me, Nolo.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate the fact that when it comes to matters around diversity, equity and inclusion, you work as a thinking partner for me and help me challenge my ideas and kind of upgrade my operating system. And I think we've often had really interesting conversations about how what we see and how we experience the world really depends on where we sit. And I'm so interested, you know, when it comes to having the facilitated conversations, where do you think the magic is? What happens in those sessions that really kind of leads to the transformation?
I always say, I think it's when we lean into the storytelling. I think as African people, as South Africans, it's part of who we are. It's part of our DNA. And there are parts of us that sometimes we want to let go because we think we're getting modernized. It's been very interesting for me in this when I think about how my grandmother would teach me through storytelling, right? And obviously I became a teenager and I thought I know better and I let that go. So it's been very interesting how when we lean into that space, it provides a safe space for everyone to tell who they are, to tell their lived experience, without necessarily using words like lived experience or psychological safety for that matter. When you give people that space, because we all have a voice, right? It's just that, can I use it? Do I have the space to use it? Is it important enough? Does what I have to say matter? And it's always, it makes me sad how many people think what they think doesn't matter, how many people think that their voice is not important. And so through storytelling and facilitated conversations, we're able to do that, right? We're able to give the space, but also share parts of ourselves. Because you can't ask someone to be vulnerable, then you're not being vulnerable. So it's not about making it about us, but sharing parts and the things you learn about people. It always strikes me that a lot of what we know about each other are glimpses from a movie, a TV show, a book, a magazine. It's not actually from what people actually go through and how much we have in common and how much we focus on our differences, but a lot of us have a lot of things in common. The way we were raised, the way we run our households. And once you see the person behind an experience, it's very different. It's very hard to now ignore that someone is going through this, right? It's easy to label a whole collective. But when you start seeing the people behind life experiences, it definitely brings a different spin. So for me, it's always exciting because you get to know so much about people. I think that's what the difference is. It's not like your typical, let's train you, let's give you information, but we want to know, teach us. As we learn from you, you learn from us. How do we do that? So that's what I love doing.
I love that, and I love that idea of the ongoing learning,
Yes.
but also that idea of being seen and
Yes.
being heard.
Yes.
I think that often in our businesses we don't, but even in our families,
Yeah.
even in our friendship groups, we don't slow down enough to stop and say, tell me about you, I want to understand who you are, what's happening for you. I know that one of the concepts we use when it comes to conversations, facilitated conversations, and where the magic of transformation happens in diversity, equity, and inclusion is the idea of head, heart, hand. And so we have the kind of learning component of the course in the journal that really is the head. We have the heart component. Do we carry on talking or have we lost it?
We're going to pick it up in 10 seconds, the light.
Some of you might have had a little glitch there, such as the joy of load shedding in South Africa. We were talking about the idea of head, hand, heart. So head really being the learning component, the journals, the coursework. Heart being, I think, where we come in terms of the storytelling, because when we hear somebody's story, it touches our heart.
Oh, yes.
And when it touches our heart, that's where the hand stuff, the actions, the changing behavior happens. And I know that I think it's extraordinary what people share when they're given the opportunity, and how you can sit in sessions where people share stuff that's so big that you kind of end up sitting with kind of tears. We've had sessions with everybody in tears.
Yes, yes. And it happens, I mean, I had one yesterday where and the person sharing the story, literally, you it's such a part of who they are that they were telling their story. And then halfway he kind of went, oh, I didn't realize that I had shared this big thing. Because everyone had gone quiet on the call. Okay, I didn't realize that I had shared this big, probably triggering thing. But it is that, because sometimes we try and make it into this scientific thing, how we create a spaces of safety. I think it's also spaces of bravery. Because there are spaces that are not safe, and there are people who bring their bravery into it and share parts of who they are, and that turns it into a safe space. So it's not that we always go into these places that are just waiting and willing and know what. Sometimes it's hard. When you are authentic about it, when you are intentional about it, it translates to whoever's in the room, or most times across the screen, to a space of if I bring my heart into this, and I know that the people in the room are willing to do something, once they understand what my experience, what I experience work as, for example, once you know that your colleagues are going through this, you can't not do anything about it, right? It becomes bigger than policy. It becomes bigger than HR. It becomes about, we all have a role to play in DI work. It is not a policy. It's not about senior management. Everyone has a part to play, no matter how senior, no matter how junior you are in the organization. And I think the hand part for me is that it's the, what can you do? What do you do better? How do you show up better tomorrow after you hear someone's story? Because in the past, we have made about an HR exercise, a senior leadership exercise, and then there's a policy. Then what happens after that? So it's so important to, when I love the hand, the head, heart, hand way of looking at it, because it speaks to, now that I know better, how do I then do better? Because you cannot keep doing the same thing if you now know and claim you don't know. Now you have the info, but if you not sure, you can go find out more. Like you said, you can learn more, you can talk to other people. I love the fact of working with people that can be my partners in diversity. There are a lot of things I didn't know about white people.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of things. And now I have a different understanding. My assumptions, I have a safe space where I can challenge them and share them, knowing that the people in the room will know that perhaps my intentions are great, but my impact sometimes may not be so wonderful because of the way I do or say things.
Thank
so it's
you.
that continuous learning that's amazing for me.
No, I love that. Thank you so much. What I love is that diversity, equity, and inclusion is an opportunity to be leveraged. And that's what we can do when we upgrade our operating systems. Thank you, everyone.
You.